The Rambam writes in the first halacha of the first chapter, Kol mitzvahs shebetorah, all the mitzvahs of the Torah, bein aseh bein lo taseh, whether it's a positive commandment or negative commandment, im over al odom alachs mehin, if one had violated any one of them, bein bezodon, bein bishkoga, whether he does it deliberately or inadvertently, keshiazet tshuva v'yoshuv nicheto, when he does tshuva and he retracts, he repents from the sin, he leaves the sin, chayv desvados lefnei okel yisborach, okel baruch hu, he has to confess before God, blessed he, chenemar isha kiyasu, man or woman who does something even deliberately, visvad was chatosa masherosu, they must confess the sin that they had done. This is the verbal confession. Vidui ze mitzvah say this vidui, actually articulation of it, expressing it. What is it? What do you have to say? Ketzad nisvadin. How does one confess? Omer on Hashem. On Hashem means please God. Chotosi. I've sinned inadvertently, if it's inadvertent. Avisi, I've sinned deliberately, but not out of defiance. Poshati, I've sinned in defiance, lefanecha, before you. Vosisi kach v'kach, and you articulate what the sin was. I did such and such. Nichamti, I am turning over a new leaf. That's regret, remorse. Uboshti b'masai, and I'm ashamed because of my actions, because of my behavior. There's a shame aspect. And I will never go back to that. I'm ashamed for my behavior. I mean, I would say the order should be, I've done such and such. I want to change my behavior. Uboshti, and I'm ashamed. You should say, I'm ashamed. That's why I want to change my behavior. But yet the Rambam writes, he's quoting the Talmud. First, nichamti. Nichamti means I have remorse. I want to make a change. Uboshti, and I'm embarrassed. B'masai, with the actions that I've done. For a person to come to the level of recognition that he did the wrong thing, it's not so simple. Most people, they have no problem looking themselves in the mirror, regardless of how much baggage they have, unless it's something very extreme. We live without consciences, although we've crossed many lines. When does your conscience bother you? Either you sinned so extremely, you can't justify and attribute any of that misbehavior to anything but yourself, or you come to recognize the wrong because you want to make changes. If you want to make changes in your life, you're not sweeping anything under the rug. You will deal with the issues as they are. So before we talk about, I'm embarrassed, I'm experiencing a certain degree of shame, that's only if the nichamti. Only if the person's made a commitment because he recognizes it was wrong to make the change, to extricate himself from that, only then could he say boshti. Until then, it's no boshti. He's not embarrassed. He's not ashamed. Because a shame automatically means I carry guilt. I'm not guilty. I deflect it all. Therefore, the only way we can talk about shame is you first acknowledge you did the wrong thing. Is it different if you're forced by a third party or you yourself mistakenly eat non kosher meat? When you make the mistake yourself, you're liable. Somebody else force feeds you. You're not held accountable. It has no effect on you. What's the difference? When you eat, any action you do, which is not compelled by an outside force, that action is attributed to yourself. It's not attributed to anybody but yourself. So if that's the case, if actually you ingested something which was innately, something which was contrary to your spirituality, why did you eat that? Because you chose to eat it. It's inadvertent because you weren't aware. But why did you eat it? I ate it because I chose to eat it. When you compelled by an outside force, not by the person himself, why did you eat it? This could be on a superficial level. And because of the degree of remorse and shame, he says, I'm not going back there again. Will not go back there. You have to have the commitment for the future. It's not enough to regret the past. If you don't regret the past and it brings you to the future, that means the past is flawed. The remorse you experience is flawed. Because it wouldn't be flawed. How did you become a repeat offender? The answer is because it's attributed to the gene pool, the spiritual gene pool you have. This is the essence of confession. Person who increasingly confesses and is more lengthy in the confession. That's truly praiseworthy. The first pasuk we spoke about, the Rambam speaking about, there's no liability of a sacrifice. But even something which has liability of sacrifice, which indicates it's much more severe. When they bring their sacrifices for their inadvertent failings, oh, als doinon emiskaper lo the korban actually has a tshuva. Unless the korban, the sacrifice is pre-designated on tshuva, the korban has no value. It's coupled with tshuva. You have to do tshuva before you bring the korban. Let's say a person had a very tough day, brings his sacrifice to the Beis Hamikdash, and his mind is so overwhelmed with all the day's problems, he can't even think about doing tshuva because he needs a certain degree of clarity and focus. And they bring the korban. Korban has no value. The korban, the sacrifice, is not atoned unless it's predicated on tshuva, or minimally while it's happening, while it's cooking. No, he says, "Cholamarbe lisvados umarich." Person who increases his confession, umarich binyan zeh, and he says it in a more lengthy way. Harizim shubach. It's praiseworthy. Question is why? Tshuva is ABC. Those are the components of tshuva. And he says that a person who increasingly confesses, and even the confession is more lengthy, it's praiseworthy. If you eat a kazayis of matzah, the minimal amount that's required to fill the mitzvah, and then you eat another one, a second kazayis of matzah, did you add anything to the first one you eat the second? The answer is no. You fulfilled the mitzvah. Once I did the mitzvah, it's over. But yeah, when it comes to tshuva, the more you do tshuva, abundantly, when you do tshuva, you become praiseworthy.
Rabbi.
Rabbi?
Yeah.
Oh, we are on record.
Yeah. Okay.
We thought you were reading. Okay.
Okay. What time is it? Okay. I just dozed off. I have had a very